an iconic trio is plucked from obscurity and becomes the most famous people in the world in order to stop an evil something?
And no, we're not talking about any of those famous Star Wars trios. This week, we're covering the most jerkin' movie of 2001, Josie and the Pussycats.
How Star Wars is it?
Well, hello there, Mike.
Hi, Josiah. What is this?
Our show.
It is.
This is How Star Wars Is It.
This is
And
Mike and Josiah, and we are the hosts of the only podcast called How Star Wars Is It?
And the only podcast. And this is the show where we rate things on a scale of 1 to 10, but not of how good they are, but of how Star Wars they are.
Yes, and this to me, just to get ahead of this before we really crack into the episode, this is sort of a spiritual successor to our other famous episode that almost spun off into a network of shows unto itself, Rat Race.
Yes. Oh my God, Mike, I'm glad you said this because
very Rat Race adjacent movie, and we're very excited to talk about it.
Absolutely Rat Race adjacent for more reasons than one. We'll get into that in a little bit, probably. Hey guys and listeners, this is the first episode we're recording post me getting sinus surgery, so I'm
maybe
still
post-election.
And post-election,
I feel
maybe
like we banked a whole shitload of episodes.
We did.
No, I guess that's not true.
We did, but so
it is the first episode we recorded post Biden winning.
It's
officially.
true. That's also true. With the Electoral College
Just keeps
actually
happening.
voting. But so if I'm a little stuffy sounding, it's because I am still recovering, and I apologize if that is true. But hopefully everything sounds good. And why are we doing Josie and the Pussycats? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because we have a good friend and a guest on the podcast today who requested we cover this. So without further ado, please welcome what we got: composer, lyricist, amazing musician, just sexy guy, really beautiful smile and face and beard, Dave Reddyk.
Happy to be here. I'm honestly long-time listener, first-time caller, super stoked.
Very excited to have you, Dave.
Listeners will be aware of Dave from providing the fart sounds in the Poop Nose song that played during GI Hard on the Die Hard episode. That is, of course, unless you fast-forwarded through us talking about our gastrointestinal problems.
And yes, Dave and former guest of the show, friend of the show, Ethan Krupp, musical writing duo.
Yes.
To the extreme, created a bunch of amazing musicals that if you're in the Chicago area, you might have heard or seen, or if you're online. But Dave, and I actually have something I want to bring up to Dave as we sort of introduce him and give his credits and everything. So, Dave, you wanted to talk about Josie and the Pussycats. You won the one that wanted to talk about this movie.
So, yes, and let me just preface why, just to do a quick bit of nostalgia. This is the last movie I saw before I moved to California, or moved from California to St. Louis. So it was like the last thing we saw. This was pre-9/11. It was the summer of 2001. Stuff was wild. We, didn't have terrorism or anything yet. But so I go to see this movie with like my two best friends in the world, Pete and Fred, who are twins, which I don't know, that seems relevant. But go to see this movie at the mall, and I just remember being like overwhelmed, being like 12 years old and hearing like pop punk for like the first time, really. And then like, like when you hear pop punk for the first time, like it just overwhelms you. And then this was actually the first record I ever bought. I went to Warehouse Music with a gift card I got for my birthday and purchased Josie and the Pussycats, the soundtrack, for
so
$15 back in 2001 because the record industry was so corrupt back then.
Oh my God.
That's so wild. And I know,
amazing.
obviously, we are close, and I know that you are quite a pop punk aficionado. So it's really lovely to be a witness now to what started it all.
That's what one of the things I was going to say is because, Dave, some of the conversations we've had, specifically on some of those anarchy trips, where we went to like some festivals and stuff, were about like pop punk and punk in general. And so I was excited to cover this movie just in general because I knew that you are very knowledgeable about just like pop punk and just music in general. You've got a breadth of knowledge that I'm very excited to pick your brain about with this movie. Well, and while we're talking about Josie and the Pussycats journey, I actually told my parents what we were recording about, and it really threw them back because my mom was like, I used to watch that on Saturday morning
like
cartoons.
the Hanna-Barbera, yeah.
And so we pulled up an episode of the one season of 16 episodes. There's only one season, and they just ran reruns for forever.
Man, that is why. That's
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to think of other shows that are iconic that had one season. Obviously, Archie comics like helped keep that thing alive, but like what other, I feel like there is at least one or two other shows out there that it's just like everyone knows about and it only lasted for like 5 minutes.
And the comic was long running and super popular, and my mom had
Right.
read those too, but then she was like talking about the show was the thing that she remembered. So we watched like the first episode, and it's such a classic like 1969 like 1970 Hanna-Barbera cartoon. It feels like Scooby-Doo because that show is more Scooby-Doo than it is with the comic, and like the movie is more based on the comic than the show. But I never saw the movie, and I was talking to my parents about it because it came out during the time where I wasn't 13 yet, so I couldn't watch it because it's PG-13.
Oh man, I have a whole note that's just about this. Keep going.
And I remember seeing it to rent at like the video rental store, the Video Stop, the one we went to near our house, the local one. And I remember seeing the cover and being like, I can't watch that.
Oh my God, you are like quoting verbatim my note right now.
Because
No, go ahead.
I was like, there's 3 pretty girls on the front.
Yes.
And like and I don't know if there's
edgy.
They look edgy, and I don't know if there's actually cleavage or anything, but like in my mind I remember being like, that one's, if I cannot even ask to rent that because my parents will know that I like boobs, and I cannot have that happen.
That's exactly where my head was. I said, first of all, as a kid, I perceived this movie to be very edgy and dangerous because I was a good little boy who didn't watch PG-13 movies, unless, of course, the PG-13 rating came from violence.
Yes.
Like
then
Lord of
it's
the
okay.
Rings. But if I knew, basically, if the cover of the movie was like black or silver and it was PG-13, you're good. But if it's white, that means it's a comedy. And if a movie is PG-13 because it's a comedy, that means there's filthy jokes in there. And those like sexy low-rise pants.
Yes.
Like, I just like looking at the cover today, I was like, boy, oh boy, weird that I am almost 30 and there is something still in me that's like, this is like for the bad kids.
Yeah. There's a sense of shame from like 2001 that's like, careful. Don't let your parents see you looking at this.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
But anyway, that's sort of I guess, like our perceptions as kids. Dave
Mike,
was a lucky person to be able to see it. And then Josiah and I both watched it for the first time in the last 48 hours.
And I want you guys both to know that my girlfriend is very mad at me now because I told her we were watching it, and she was like, no, I want to watch that with you. That's one of my favorite movies. And like she was one of the, like, you know, sort of, because they marketed this movie poorly towards sort of like kids and like girls, even though it's like a funny satire about like the music industry and consumerism. But she loved it, and she loved the soundtrack, and so she was very mad at me because now I saw it without her. But I fucking love this flick. It was great.
It's amazing. It is a sleeper. It did terribly at the box office. Roger Ebert hated it, even though he loved episode 1 of The Phantom Menace. Do you guys remember that?
Sure,
yeah, right.
He did.
I don't know how much I trust him just because of that very fact.
Exactly. It's ludicrous. But like, so actually, one thing, I'm going to be a dick for a second just to correct you, Josiah. There was one season of Josie and the Pussycats, the cartoon, but they also had Josie and the Pussycats in outer space.
Yes,
From
correct.
73 to 74. So just want to make sure we clear the record on that.
Right. So there's 2 seasons of
That is
different.
so funny.
It's yeah.
It's like a reboot or whatever, or a revival. I also loved this movie. I loved it for what it is trying to be. I also loved it because, like I said, I'm almost 30 and it is 2020.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it were 2001, I would be 11 or 10. I don't think the 10-year-old me would have really grasped the satire, which of course is hilarious because it's beating you over the head with it.
It's
But,
so
like,
funny.
So I don't know if we'll cover the satire in a second, but I don't know if it's that the satire managed to age like a fine wine, or if I'm just older and I knew that this movie was sort of camp and very of its moment. But regardless, I also had a fucking blast.
Yeah, the thing I was doing some research on it because I was so interested after watching it, and the thing I kept seeing was people being like, it was ahead of its time, and I really agree with that because it feels like it could have come out now as a period piece about 2001, you know, and like the satire of this movie is so anti-consumerist and so anti like corporation, anti-conglomerate of like that sort of mass-produced pop music. Like it's anti all of that. And for those of you who haven't seen it, the way it does that is by like shoving brands in your face constantly. Like there's not a single shot almost where there's not just a brand name on the screen.
And at first I was confused by that because
me too.
The du jour plane
was
like,
Target.
Why are all the Target logos in the plane? You would think they'd be on the outside of the plane.
It was Dave. Did that do anything for you as a kid, or were you mostly just like, hell yeah, this music rules?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm interested what it was you like thought at that age, because I know my instinct would probably be, these girls are really cute and this music is really fun, and that would be the extent of how I like understood the movie.
Yeah, no, definitely the latter. I think Rosario Dawson definitely awakened something in me, because this is really like America's introduction to Rosario Dawson too, which is huge. But it's funny on the sort of brand stuff, like again, to go back to Roger Ebert's, poor review of Josie and the Pussycats, he didn't realize that the branding was like satirical. He thought they were getting paid for all those brands. Nobody got paid for any of that.
Yeah,
No.
right.
You know what I mean? Like it's so I don't know. I'm sure as a kid I saw it, but I think we have to remember too, like Josiah was saying, like it's ahead of its time, but also so much of its time. It sort of like sounded the death knell of the music industry, because like this is pre Napster being a thing, right? This is pre like being able to record an album in your home with a MacBook and a couple of decent microphones, right? So like all this punk sound is suddenly becoming like conglomerated and corporate and all this bullshit, but like at that moment, you had to have major label backing to actually release a record,
That's
Yeah,
true.
this movie feels like, and like what I was reading about too, like some of the sounds they were going for was like they wanted Josie and the Pussycats to be like a pop rock outfit, sort of more rocky,
like a Green Day.
Yeah, they were like, we wanted to make a female Blink 182, and I was like,
right.
that rules.
Yes.
It fucking rules, right? They don't talk about their dicks and like poop and stuff all the time. It's
It's
great.
Fucking rule. And this, I mean, this movie and this honestly, this soundtrack kind of have like a similar energy to like that American Idiot Green Day. This movie's like moral, I feel like, has the same sort of vibe as like Green Day's American Idiot, where it's like, it's saying fuck America, but in but in a different way. Not saying the government of it, saying like the way that and it also, like you said, Dave, it came at an interesting time because it was like post grunge, post like that sort of era of punk, and then pre-internet, and so it was this weird time where like music was in a weird place.
Would go to a record store.
Yeah. Well, and like not to dive too much into comparing it to Star Wars, I don't know how late you guys like to do that.
Sure.
But one of the cool things I think about this record, and what like makes it very Star Wars, is they are not shy at all about where the musical influences come from. Like the main songwriters on this are like Adam Duritz of Counting Crows, Dave Gibbs of Gigolo Ants, and
Adam Schlesinger, right?
Yeah,
Adam Schlesinger of
Fountains of Wayne and That Thing You Do fame.
Yes,
and Crazy
he's
Ex-Girlfriend.
Like yes, I was gonna say he's like the go-to guy for writing music for bands that aren't real and also on TV and in movies.
And I said that when Caitlin and I were talking about it, I was like, man, this is the most specific job ever, because his job depends on him writing a fucking hit.
Yes. But an imaginary hit.
The entire movie of That Thing You Do is centered around that one song. You hear it like 10 times.
Yeah.
And of course they had something like 30 different versions of That Thing You Do, the song, before they like settled on that one, I think. I think multiple artists wrote one, but like dude can write a hit from a fake band.
And Dave, you sent us like a little playlist, and I think that was the point of it,
yes.
right? Where it was
Yep.
like, these songs are these
Or
songs.
this.
Well, because
Yeah.
that's the thing, like that opening track, Angels of the Silences, which is, I think, by far the best Counting Crows song. Like, we always think of them as like, accidentally in Shrek.
Yeah,
you know?
Shrek 2.
You know, that kind of shit.
Sha la 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 la.
Yeah. Uh-huh. No, we're not going to do that.
I have a friend who loves
Yeah.
I have a friend who loves Counting Crows, or his favorite band. I always
Yeah.
make him mad because I always think that Della Reese song is, or what? It's not Della Reese. That's the actor. What's that fucking band? Like the oh do boo do do pretty baby. Like,
Sister
what is-
Hazel.
No,
Yes, I
no,
think-
that's it's not
no.
Sister Hazel.
That's
It's
the
not
other
Sister
one.
Hazel.
What is it?
Roll to Me by...
like-
Delamitri.
yes.
Delamitri.
Della Reese.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
So,
Della
actually,
Reese,
real
who
quick,
is the
though-
actor
Delamitri.
from Touched by an Angel.
So here's another thing though. Delamitri, that was like the hit song of like, I think like a Flipper reboot or something back in the 90s, wasn't it? Like, and talking about like awakenings again, like the lifeguard character in that did something to me, and like I was like, I will.
The dolphin.
The dolphin.
Yes. No, it was
Beautiful
basically The Shape of Water, but like, you know, ahead of its time.
But yeah, so you've got like Fountains of Wayne, Counting Crows. What was the other?
By the way, one time I went to the Athenaeum Theater here in Chicago, and I saw Delamitri Martin, the stand-up.
Very good, very good.
Okay, that's
I'll allow
the
it.
end of that.
Woof.
What were you saying, Josiah?
Well, I was gonna, so yeah, the musical influences to what Dave was just talking
Oh,
about.
yes.
This is Star Wars in that it wears its influences on its sleeve,
Sure.
especially
Yeah.
for the music.
And visuals, I would say. In fact, at one point, I wrote down here. I have maybe 1,000 notes for this movie, but I wrote down, is this an Austin Powers movie? And then a like sub item under that was, or maybe a Zoolander movie. And then I looked it up. Zoolander, I think, came out the same year, and they both did. What about this like specific job? But they are up against like an evil organization that is like permeating all of culture.
Yeah.
Like bananas. And it all has that like all that aesthetic.
Yes.
You know?
It's that
like-
2001. Well, and like one of the first things I wrote down, because Mike, you mentioned Rat Race earlier, because like Breckin Meyer and Seth Green,
And Seth Green.
right out the gate, and I was like, this
Du
is
jour with their hit Backdoor Lover, which I
Yeah.
listened to the soundtrack twice today, and that song is not being subtle about
No.
butt sex.
no.
Well, but
absolutely
also
not.
the song "Come On, Come On," like right, like it's
Yeah.
literally a song about a guy who can't get hard. She's like, "Just get hard for me." Like literally,
on.
that's the whole thing.
Oh my
So,
lord.
Yeah.
But yeah, the aesthetic of this movie is Mike. Something you said, I think in text, maybe was just like, it's like colorful, and the fashion
Yeah.
is wild, and it's very
It's
2001
like an alternate
fashion.
reality. Obviously, with all the ads that you can see the Twin Towers with all the ads on it or whatever, like
Yeah,
it literally
it's
is not what is in existence, but like everything is this like heightened, colorful, cartoony
It's-
version, which
it's like-
I would say, given that it's based on a cartoon, is to some degree a successful bit of filmmaking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's an era of movie that stopped like after 9/11, especially. Like this is very pre 9/11, and you can feel it because you're like, there's hope and we can all work together. And then it's just
Right.
like, you know, if this movie came out or was made after 9/11, you know that the energy would have been way different.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was like right before it came in, right under the buzzer there, it's very fun. Also, it's funny.
It
I
is
took a lot of
funny.
notes too, and there are some really good jokes in this movie.
One of my first notes was murder? When Alan Cumming and the pilot fucking leave the plane, I was like, boy, that's another thing this movie does that is very of that moment is it very firmly cements its like fucking bonkers tone
Yes.
right away. Like this movie, that's one thing I think maybe people didn't like about it is it does go the sincere route sometimes, but then it also goes the sort of bonkers comedy route of the people, you know, paratroop out of the plane and kill the boy band on board, or
And
so we think. You know, like
the way
that compared with the like Josie and the Rosario Dawson character like having a bit of a tiff because of like the spotlight or whatever, like that feels very earnest, and
Yeah.
like fucking du jour showing up in full body casts feels very comedy, and it like doesn't quite mesh ever, but both things are something.
Two things off that really quick. First off, the fact that Alan Cumming goes to the pilot and says, "Take the Chevy to the levee," is so fucking funny.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Because the day the music died,
Yeah.
for our listeners who maybe don't know, that's what that song is about, and is about a plane crash
Yeah,
where
like
people
Buddy
died.
Holly and company.
And so that's fucking hilarious. Second, is Roger Ebert fucking stupid? Because like the fact that he didn't realize that the product placement was part of the joke, I'm like, buddy, are you okay? Are you actually good at your job? Because it's very obviously part of the joke. How did he not realize that?
See, back
I'm
then they
taking
didn't have the internet. The internet didn't exist until like 2018,
Right.
I think. So
Did they not understand? Did they not understand irony of that? Did they not have irony yet at that point
Well,
either?
here's the thing, though. I will give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt.
I
Because,
won't!
Again, it is it is in your face, and they're constantly saying, "Here's the point we're trying to make," but then in so doing, it does still feel like half of the product placement is for us, the audience, as opposed to like for the people in the reality. Like but it's fourth wall breaky,
Yes.
like maybe
It's
my
meta.
favorite joke of the whole movie was the Missy Pyle line when the guy was like, "What are you doing here?" And she was like, "I was in the comic book." Great, hilarious. Without going like ding to the fourth wall, like she said it and he went, "What?" And she was like, "Huh?" And then they moved on. Like they didn't linger on it. It was just like a perfect like blink and you miss it joke.
Yeah, this movie is meta, and it's a meta. Mike, I have to disagree with you a little bit because I think that the bonkersness and the genuineness do mesh pretty well for me, at least. And the brand.
Yeah, I guess I don't think that they don't work well together. I just think like it moves back and forth between them.
I think you're right
without
in that
like
it's.
committing to one or the other.
I think you're right in that it's probably is a reason why people didn't like it back then, because I think people went in expecting one movie and then got something entirely different and were like, "This isn't what I wanted." But it's like, but if you had gone in blank, you might have liked it because it was not what you thought it was.
Yeah, I do feel bad for like the majority of people in 2001 who got done dirty by the marketing of this movie.
Yeah.
I think you go to this movie thinking it's going to be some like sexy action like
comedy
Charlie's
thing.
Angels kind of thing, because
There's like a
it's
Charlie
got
Angels-
the same. Yeah, there's a Charlie's Angels joke in
There's
it.
a Charlie's Angels joke.
They had the same editor. My guess is it had a lot of the same like studio involvement. You know, like the like I said, the cover being white with like 3 women looking right at you. Like it's like the exact same aesthetic. Admittedly, I've not seen those movies, and I feel like I must now.
Well, but
Yeah,
in
you said
general,
you
it's a
had a-
marketing issue, right? Like again, Pop
Yeah.
Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping
Yes.
suffered from the same thing.
Why
Like that
did
is a
that
great
movie not make $1 jillion?
because it was poorly marketed. They made it just seem like a Justin Bieber parody instead of a parody of the
know.
entire like music paradigm. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing, and I don't know if marketing issue is a Star Wars thing or not, because those are pretty well marketed most of the time. Although one thing is, so while we're talking about Star Wars for a second, this movie has bops, and Star Wars has
Oh my
bops.
God.
I would
Yeah,
say
let's
this
just
movie
do,
has
like,
more bops.
The next like 5 to 10 minutes on the soundtrack itself.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, the opening track alone is basically like, and that's what I love about
Oh
it. They
my
don't
God.
hide their influences, right? Like the opening track is basically all the small things, but just faster, you know?
Yeah.
And like it has like the whole Blink-182 breakdown. Like you've got, and again, like in that playlist, there's so many similarities between all these songs. And I was actually just listening to the original theme from Josie and the Pussycats, which came out in like 1970, and it's basically Blitzkrieg bop. Like it feels like the Ramones just listened to Josie and the Pussycats and were like, "Hey, Dee Dee, let's speed this up and make it loud." You know? I don't know if that's Sylvester Stallone, maybe. I don't know.
And then that's a weird like snake eating its own tail of like the new
Right.
Josie and the
Is
Pussycats.
like punkified.
Punkified, which comes from like what I would love to see the evolution from like the 1969-70 like 3 show of that sort of like vibe where it's almost like, I don't know, ABBA but not really, like kind
Right.
of disco but not really,
Like the
And
sort
then-
of poppy, like saccharine rock and roll.
yeah, and how that morphs into like fucking pop punk, and then how that morphs into Josie and then it all
Yeah.
just comes back around.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's funny too, because like the producer of this album is a guy named Babyface, who like traditionally does like R&B records, right? Like very kind of like soulful shit. And I think it was really smart to bring him on to like produce this album with a whole bunch of notably great alt rockers, like, you know, Adam Schlesinger, Adam Duritz. But then the funny thing is that after Josie and the Pussycats came out, Babyface only produced one other punk or like alternative record, and it was Fall Out Boy's Infinity on High. And it's documented that Pete Wentz was like, we just love Josie and the Pussycats so much that we brought him on.
That is great.
Fuck
oh my
yes.
God. I made a similar rabbit hole journey today where I then sort of I'm aware of the name Letters to Cleo, but I hadn't really ever listened to them, and I listened to a little bit of them, and then I read about them, and then I think the drummer then went on to found American Hi-Fi, which like I was familiar with like their 3 big hits because one was on the Freaky Friday soundtrack, and one of them was on like either a Now album or a like Grammy nominees album of that year or whatever. The one that was like her boyfriend, he don't know anything about her.
So the funny thing, you also may have heard that on Mia Harlan's Bat Mitzvah mix CD that I got back in 2002,
I was like,
in which it was also a Rat Race themed Bat Mitzvah, because we went to Dave and Buster's and they had Rat Race playing, and I got that.
Oh my God,
CD.
a Rat Race themed Bat Mitzvah fucking rules.
That absolutely rules. Letters from
Josie
Cleo.
and the Pussycats.
Letters from Cleo. The lead singer is who sings. Is Josie's voice.
Is the Josie voice.
Because Rachel Lee Cook didn't sing. Although apparently the 3 lead actor, Rachel Lee Cook, Rosario Dawson, and Tara Reid sang on the backup stuff.
Right.
So that's who that was from that earlier story. And Tara Reid learned how to play drums, even though she's not playing.
Like she kind of knew what she was doing sometimes.
I was so interested in that I went down a rabbit hole, and I found like literal interviews, web pages from 2001. And anytime you find one of those, you're like, it's like a fucking wasteland, like a tumbleweed goes by, and you're like, am I allowed to be here? Like, why is this still up? But yeah, she took drum lessons for like 3 months before shooting started because she wanted to be able to convincingly play. And so like she's not playing on the tracks, but she knows how to play, and like you can kind of see it when she's playing, is like she's very convincingly actually playing along with what the actual track is most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's why I looked it up, because I was like, does she fucking learn? Does she know how to play drums? And like, yes, Tara Reid is probably could still do it today. I don't know if she does, but in all the interviews, she was like, yeah, I took lessons for 3 months, and at first I was really bad, but then by the 3rd week, I was like actually pretty good, and I'm actually a good drummer. And I was like, that's fucking
so
wild, Tara Reid.
I mean, look, the one thing we know about Tara Reid in Hollywood, Tara Reid puts in the work. Okay, in Sharknado 4, May the 4th be with you, which is a Star Wars inspired Sharknado film, she swam with actual sharks and actual tornado. No, I'm joking. That's bullshit.
We gotta do like a Sharknado deep dive. We watched the first one.
We did do
for
the first
show,
one. Yeah.
And
well, that was so something that you said.
Here's how I feel about those. I want to have seen them all.
Yeah.
But I sure don't really care to watch them.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to put in the time. Dave, something you said, like this was the sort of intro to Rosario Dawson, which also like currently now watching it last night. One of the things I texted my girlfriend was Rosario Dawson is so fucking hot. Like Jesus Christ, she's hot. And then, but then like this was sort of like not the end of Rachel Lee Cook and Tara Reid, but they were like 90s, early thousands stars, and then. Not really like Rachel Lee Cook does like voiceover stuff more now, and Tara Reid has the Sharknado. But it feels
she's just, like so cute. Like
she's
why
so
isn't she
cute.
in more movies?
and so what I hope happened was that they both were like, yeah, we have enough money. We don't really need to do anything else. And I hope it was that they stopped being able to get parts. But it was interesting because this was like the beginning of Rosario Dawson. And then she like just got bigger and bigger and is, you know, obviously well respected and works a lot today. And these other two, I'm like, man, the other thing I hope they're all friends. I don't know why, but I just like, you know, they seem to get along in the movie, and I just really hope they're all friends, you know?
So the one person I still worry about is Tara Reid, because she had like a rough couple of years there while she was like in the spotlight and stuff like that. But like, I mean, going back to all of that, I do hope they're friends as well, and I think they bond over their mutual connection to the Star Wars universe as well, because they are all involved. Tara Reid in Sharknado, May the 4th be with you, which is again
There it
inspired by
is.
Star Wars. Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano.
As
She's
Ahsoka,
been
yeah.
crushing
It's a big
it on The
connection.
Mandalorian. And then Rachel Lee Cook, to her voiceover experience, she does voiceover for Knights of the Old Republic, the video game.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she also did the voice of Aunt Beru in the Robot Chicken Star Wars special.
That's right, yeah, because
Yeah.
Breckenmeyer and Seth Green both do that show. Well, I know Seth Green EP like created, show runs it, but I think Breckenmeyer is like someone involved too. And
Also, the director of this movie was married to Breckenmeyer for a while at some point, which is,
Man.
or engaged to one of them.
what a
I thought it was the
I know.
writer or something, because I know the,
The writer,
writer.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny too that Breckenmeyer gets to sing "Backdoor Lover" when his like wife wrote the lyrics to it.
I know. It's so goofy. What was I going to... Oh, so yeah, like, this movie's funny. Also, we haven't talked about the plot at all.
No, we haven't. I have a couple notes before I realize we're probably like nearing our break. But like, so in terms of the movie being funny, let me just go through my notes of like things that made me laugh.
Can I tell you my favorite joke first?
Oh, yes, please do. Yeah.
My favorite joke was whenever they're talking about time travel at the end, and Melody says, she says, if I could go back in time, I'd want to meet Snoopy.
That is so funny.
And like
And
Tara
I wrote
Reid,
that down too. I wrote,
Tara Reid's
if I could
very
go back in time,
earnest.
I'd want to meet Snoopy. This movie has some jokes.
Yes, like Tara Reid's very earnest, dumb blonde routine in this.
Yeah.
It like really works, because sometimes the dumb blonde is like, you know, a silly trope, but the very earnest delivery of all of it really works for me.
Yeah,
It really
I,
works.
I even wrote early on that she was too stupid. Like,
Yeah.
because early on I was like, oh my God, no, like, we got to check on her.
Is she
But
okay?
That line was, like, truly very funny. Someone at some point mentions successful rock bands, and their list is the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Backstreet Boys. Great. The big three. I laughed out loud that Eugene Levy played himself doing
Yes.
like a corporate gig.
for an evil government slash corporation
What do
conspiracy.
they call those? An industrial?
An industrial, yeah.
Yeah. This was just a big old fucking question mark to me. Carson Daly and then a different guy who just does impressions. He
Apparently-
did Cosby.
Apparently, he was on Mad TV and some other stuff
Okay,
too.
I was gonna say he must have been like known at the time as like an impression guy, because I was like, who the fuck is this?
Carson Daly playing an evil Carson Daly,
Yeah.
who is in on the conspiracy to kill.
Right. He's
music.
part of the
And
conglomerate.
also the fact that he and Melody, Tara Reid's character, were like flirting, and the fact that they were together in real life is
Yeah.
also fantastic.
They met, I think, on set. I saw in my looking at stuff.
That makes
today.
sense.
And then this is a thing that this isn't quite Star Wars, but it is how Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is it. The cat ear headphones pay-per-view thing that they just basically banked on people all getting the headphones to wear during the broadcast is straight out of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, where Silver Shamrock, the mask company, sells these 3 just utterly irresistible Halloween masks that they hope everybody puts on at a certain time for a broadcast. And if they do, it turns their heads into bugs. We got to do that movie at some
We
point.
got it. We've talked about it enough.
And then the only other like jokey joke I wrote down was white ass Wally and Lispin Lisa.
It's Lithben Letha.
What?
That's actually where James Corden got his inspiration from for the prom. God, what a trash person. Sorry, keep going.
Like what a it would have really it would suck today if you made your living doing comedy in the early 2000s, because the aesthetic of comedy at the time was being mean to people who were different.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you were part of the game, and you could have, of course, spoken out that like making fun of someone with a lisp or with like albinism feels a little fucking weird, but like you would have been people would have been like, oh, come on, lighten up in 2001. Like, look at fucking Rat Race. That movie's full of that shit.
Oh, that movie, Rat Race sucks. But okay, so the reveal. Okay, listeners, let's do a quick plot so that we can make Lisbon Lisa and White Ass Wally make sense.
Yes.
Listeners, if you haven't seen this movie, and guys, feel free to jump in whenever.
And this is a perfect time for us to explain how the movie works at the 40-minute mark.
the 40-minute mark. So, Josie and the Pussycats are a band. They're just called the Pussycats at first. Alan Cumming is an evil record executive,
right?
Who kills a boy band du jour and needs a new band, and so he finds Josie the Pussycats, who live in Riverdale, from Archie.
Yes.
And I like the idea that Archie and all his friends are just existing in this universe at the same time, but we just don't see him. And Alan Cumming picks them up out of obscurity, turns them into a big star. Turns out that they put subliminal messaging in all the music, and that Parker Posey is his boss, and she's even more evil. And she's like selling this information and technology to world governments and stuff because they put subliminal messaging in all the music in order to make teenagers buy things and go with whatever trends they are. Hence why there's so much product placement the entire time, because we, the audience, are also sort of being bombarded with this quote unquote subliminal messaging.
And yet her ultimate goal is for people to like her and think she's
Mike,
popular, which like fucking sucks because it undermines the fact that she's evil and power hungry.
Mike, we're gonna get there, okay? So
before we get there, actually, quick thing: did it bother you too to think about how like she wipes away the like sand Zen garden thing on her desk to like punch in the buttons, and it's like, which assistant resets that every time? Like, are they in on it?
They're like, fuck, gotta. Well, hey, it's a Zen garden. Maybe it's super nice for them every time. They're like, this is actually great.
What a perfect symbol too of like, no, I'm not Zen. I'm actually a power hungry man, dude. That like, so she runs this company that is seemingly a record company, but actually they put subliminal messages in all of culture to control the minds of teenagers, essentially, and they're like underground lair. I wrote down like, this evil facility is so hilarious because everybody's little like department office is like a balcony looking onto like the main concourse of the building. It's very like embassy suites.
It's fantastic. So then basically their meteoric rise to stardom, there's like tension between the band because the Alan Cumming changes the name to Josie and the Pussycats, so she's put front and center, and they're doing that on purpose so they can like separate Josie and the other band members, because the other band members, specifically Valerie Rosario Dawson, is a little too clever for what's going on, and she's like seeing through it a little bit.
And Alan Cumming even makes a very nice anti-corporation, upon the viewer watching it, reading the text, if you will, line about that, saying like, bands with the word "and" in them test like 43% more positively or something like that. Like, it's very like capitalism corporation like testing. So
then through some machinations from Carson Daly and Alan Cumming and everybody, Alan Cumming gets Josie to listen to a subliminal messaging track, which makes her think that she is the star and deserves to be the star. She's really mean to Melody and Valerie, and they leave. And then she's about to do the big concert, but then her CD player breaks, and then she goes back and realizes that there is subliminal messaging.
Disc man.
There is subliminal messaging, and she finds out, and right before the big concert where everyone in the world has bought Josie ears, and if they listen to the technology to live stream to the entire world did not exist in 2001.
Look, I can barely
not.
make it happen teaching digitally. Like,
I know this Zoom call right now is amazing.
Do any of your kids have those ears?
They don't. Gosh, I should really write a grant. I think that might help. Yeah.
But so Josie figures out the plot right before the end, and she's reunited with the group. Hijinks ensue. The band that was killed at the beginning didn't actually die, and they come back.
Oh, and there's a boy who likes her. And you can
along
hear
the way,
his voice from the crowd of the Sega Mega Arena.
And then basically Alan Cumming and Parker Posey, it turns out, went to the same high school and were both rejects back then who who were not cool and they had a lisp and were albino, as Mike
Now,
said earlier.
They
It's some
ostensibly
weird...
talk to one another every day on the phone and work for one another at the same company, and they hadn't put together in however long they had worked together that they went to the same high school.
It's absolutely goofy, and that reveal, I agree, Mike, and was to me the only thing that didn't work for me in the movie.
Yeah.
Because I would have rather she had just been evil and not been like, oh, I wasn't cool and I just wanted to be cool. Like
Right.
I was like, okay, that does undercut a little bit the whole theme of the movie being like rampant consumerism and capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
also-
I think it actually is a pretty believable turn. And the reason why I say that is like, look at our, president who's leaving now, right? Like he's gotten to where he is because he's so freaking insecure, came from some sort of
true.
money and then just built it up. I think we take for
Right.
granted just how much like capitalism is based on people being insecure about the things that they have and wanting
Very
more.
true.
And so I think
Right.
deep down,
True.
that's all it is. Like there's that song where it's like shapeshifter, guest lister, right? It's like I just want to be invited to the show. I just want to do all these things, and I will be evil to make it happen if I need to. So
One thing to say before we go to the break, this is my last thing I'll say, is it's really lucky that they were actually a good band, because then whenever they put on the actual concert without any of this little messaging, everyone looks around and is like, okay, no, yeah, I still dig this. I'm like,
Yeah,
man, that's
right. Like,
that
phew.
was a close one.
You guys
'Cause if
got
they
lucky.
had sucked, oh, that would have been really bad.
Well, it's evidenced by those first couple songs we hear. Like, listening to the soundtrack today, I was like, oh, yeah, they front-loaded this album with, like, the ones that made it into the movie that were, like, the best ones. Like, Pretend to Be Nice. Listening to that today, I was like, well, this might just go on playlists of mine now, because it is, like, it's more complex than a Green Day or Ramones song. Like, it has that sort of diminished thing that happens, or I'm out of my depth in terms of.
wait, can I music theory nerd on Pretend to Be
Yes,
Nice for just a
please,
second?
Yes,
music
please.
theory.
Dave, that's why we have you.
Great. So glad I can be of use. I just want to be useful. Anyway, so I think that's probably one of the best punk songs written of all time, mostly because so many of the tracks on that album have so many direct like analogies to something that came before it. That one truly stands out. Like the swing beat, like you didn't really have that sort of swing thing happening except with a couple of Green Day songs. And then the chord progression, right, should be just like a standard, like, dum, 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 heart and soul kind of thing. But instead, what he does, what Adam Schlesinger does, is he perverts it where the third chord instead turns into like the kind of chord you hear in Where Is My Mind by the Pixies. And so then he gets that weird leap into the last chord of the progression, and it all just like goes out of whack. Anyway, I'm kind of spinning my wheels at this point, but the idea being like he took something that would have been a very basic prom style progression of like doo-wop and twist it just a little bit so it sounds different. And I truly believe the only influence on that song that is truly documented is the Pixies' Where Is My Mind, because the
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of like the kind
Stop.
of like opening track of that. So I'm done.
yeah.
Now, Dave, can I ask you this? Because one of the conversations we've had, we talked about how Ocean Avenue by Yellow Card is is one of the a perfect song, a perfect pop song example, or in general.
Yeah,
So how does it stack up against that?
So here's what I'll say. I do
Does it
believe
have an electrified violin in it?
it doesn't, which is the only thing that discounts it. No, but I'll shut up in a second because people don't usually care about music theory. But one of the very cool things about Ocean Avenue is that main unstable riff, that is not like a standard riff you hear. You don't hear that in pop punk records that much because it's starting on like the fifth of the scale. So like the so of the scale. If you're like do re mi fa so, so it's like so la 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 fa 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 fa, which you usually don't hear. And like this rhythm's so unstable because again he's like trying to remember this memory, but it's falling away from him all the time until you finally get to the bridge. And you get a more standard chord progression that starts on home, the do, right? Because he's finally back home, but it's all different. It's all different.
Yeah.
Whereas,
And-
like, Pretend to Be Nice is a very good pop song, but it doesn't have that sort of lyrical connection to the music that Ocean Avenue does, is what I'd say.
So, listeners, you heard it here first, and I actually heard it first from Dave while we were driving. That Ocean Avenue is a perfect song, and I agree. I agree is how I said that for some reason.
I would watch like a YouTube channel of that. There's a guy I've seen on YouTube before who sort of does that same thing, dissecting just popular songs, whatever they may be, and connects lyrics to structure to melody, etc. And I'm like, I just watch those videos just nodding, like, you're saying stuff that I understand.
I think one of the things that's cool about this soundtrack, and just also like, so I think there is a sense of like, whenever you're kind of growing up and like younger, maybe like teens, like in college even sometimes, you have this feeling of like, especially if you're like a music nerd or whatever, there's this feeling of like, well, pop music is lesser, right? Or like popular music in general is lesser. And I feel like I got to this point, and Dave, I feel like you've gotten to this point, like the way listening to you talk about Yellow Card and stuff like that, is you get to a point where you go like, oh no, this stuff is actually, if not as complex, quote unquote, as like, I don't know, classical music, whatever, it is still complex, and you can still find the ways in which it makes it really interesting, especially the stuff that really stands out. And like, I used to be like, pop music is dumb. And now like my top artist on my Spotify Wrapped I was in the top 0.1% listeners of Carly Rae Jepsen, baby.
Yes. Oh my God. I want a Carly Rae musical right now. Jukebox me, baby. Sorry.
Stat. I saw the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra, like the conductor, I think, or maybe he was separate, but they did a night of, or a little like weekend concert series of her songs, but orchestral arrangements with her actually there singing them. Oh. And I went to Indianapolis specifically to watch that from Chicago, and it was fantastic.
I did the same thing when Ben Folds did that.
So to that point of like pop music though, like having value and stuff, think of somebody like Tchaikovsky, who like takes a lot of shit actually in the classical community as being like kind of cheesy sometimes, you know, like you know what I mean? My music theory professor in college though said, look, Tchaikovsky is very cheesy, but do you know how hard it is to make good cheese? It takes years to make a good cheese. Same thing with
to that
pop music.
point. We were my girlfriend and I were listening to a Christmas playlist the other day, and a Nutcracker song came on. It might have been that one exactly. And Charlie, my girlfriend, was like, this song fucking rules. And I was like, I know, it's still very good. Like the classics, they hit and they still hit, baby. Should we go to the break real quick since we?
Yeah, I suppose we should.
Oh, actually, wait, one more thing. One more thing as we're hitting the 45-minute mark.
Yeah.
This movie and pop and popular music having value and popular things having value, I think that might be where we find the most Star Wars connection here.
That's a really good point.
Because Star Wars is confectionery most of the time. Yes. Not all the time, but most of the time. But that does not mean that it is valueless.
I would venture... Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm terrible with fucking Zoom. I cut people off all the time. I'm just excited about this. One thing I want to shoehorn in before the break, too, is I think we might be forgetting just how Zombie Island Josie and the Pussycats is. Like, it is so much more like Zombie Island than it is like Star Wars. So if you want to do a meta comparison, I think you're going to find
So it is a perfect movie.
It is a perfect movie.
Yeah. It has montages. It has like a Hard Day's Night montage and a
cat
climbing
worship
the Billboard chart montage. Cat worship. The thing I was going to say was I would venture to guess that like if you surveyed, if you made like 130-year-olds watch this movie right now, probably less than half would like it, but I bet you that half would test higher on like an IQ test.
Mike, I thought you just said if you made a 130-year-old watch it, and I was like, where would you find
who's
one?
130 years old watch this movie, they'd be like, this music was way past my time when it was relevant.
They would be like,
no,
I'm in a coffin.
Not to like, I guess that's sort of a little bit of like me like thinking highly of myself, but like it has that sort of fucking Rainforest Cafe, like bad movie, but like you are fully aware of what you're getting into thing, the sort of camp that does in fact happen in Star Wars. Like, I feel like the biggest fans of Star Wars know full well that like Star Wars is at best inconsistent. Yeah. And this has that.
I think camp is a great way to describe it. It's knowing that it's cheesy, but going, that's
like
the point.
Full in.
All right, we should go to the break.
Yeah.
Wee! Sound like Pitt.
We're back.
We're back.
This, by the way, listen, nerds, this episode might be a long one. It might last 6 whole hours.
And 5 whole long days.
Okay. So I, hours before recording, realized we needed a game for this episode.
Yes.
And here it is. It is called Advertise Me Captain.
Yeah.
Taken from, of course, Crunchitize Me Captain. As we've already discussed, this movie is riddled with, quote, product placement. And many of the companies didn't even pay to have their brand included, which is a fun fact.
Listeners, just so you know, the idea of the product placement is funny, and Roger Ebert is an idiot because there was a point at which they were in an aquarium section of like a zoo or something,
right?
And there was Evian. There was an Evian logo in the water of like the beluga whales.
The helicopter shot of Manhattan, like every building has like giant logos on it.
All that to say, Roger Ebert, you're stupid. If you're still alive, I can't remember if you're the one that's still alive or not.
No, he's
dummy.
Dead. He's
okay.
Dead.
Well,
he's also like a Chicago legend, and we're probably gonna get a lot of hate mail for this.
Bring it on, baby.
Yeah, we would welcome the email.
Absolutely, I love getting emails.
Remember,
no such thing as bad press, baby.
Yeah, remember the thing in like the early 2000s where getting an email was cool?
Dude, remember right now when it's still cool, and I love it every time.
So in this game, you two will alternate turns. And you have to tell me one product or brand whose logo appeared in the film. I found a really good list online, but the site said, and many more, at the end of the list. And then another site said something like more than 70 companies were featured in the film. And in my list, I think I only have 46 here. From the list. So if you say something that isn't on here, it may well still have been in the movie. So I don't really have a way of verifying that other than like looking it up. So I guess like we all have to agree that the answer was right.
Okay, great.
Let's see. And I also said each of you will get 3 strikes.
That's what I was going to ask.
Or fewer if the game seems to be going too long. We'll make that call at some point. And then the last man standing wins. I have the list of companies here in front of me that appear on walls or on carpets or in aquariums in this movie.
Fuck, I already gave one of them away.
So question, do I need my 20-sided die for this? Or is this a non-role-playing? Because I've got them, baby.
Now, if I had made the game...
Yeah, if Josiah had made it, you might. But that would have actually been a really fun lay-on to this. You have to roll a D20, and then whatever the number is, you have to name that many companies that appear in the movie. I got an 18. Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so let's see. We'll start with Dave. Any advertisement we see in Josie and the Pussycats?
Sure. Target.
Boom.
Target was my first one on here. Yes,
I know. I'm
correct.
starting with the easy ones. I'm in here to win.
I'm literally going to make a list of my own so I know what's been said and what hasn't been said. Okay, going off of that, I'm pretty sure there was Bounce, like the detergent thing, I think, or like fabric softener in the Target plane.
Yes, that is correct. Bounce is on the list. And in fact, this list is not alphabetical or anything. So I'm going to have to just like Control F every time you answer.
Good.
Okay, back to no strikes so far. Back to Dave.
Okay, so we've got Target and Bounce so far. I can't talk anymore. So fall. Yeah, now I'm just totally blank. Bloomingdale's, I think, is the big brown bag. Is that what Bloomingdale's is?
Bloomingdale's, yes,
yeah.
is on here.
Okay, coming in, I'm going to say, what's one? Oh, Coke.
Coke is correct.
Coca-Cola.
Okay,
Diet Coke is the new Pepsi One.
When I told Caitlin what the game was, she like immediately rattled off like 5 or 6, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
So another one. This actually isn't a brand that you see, but it's in the dialogue. Pumas.
Yes.
In the dialogue. And Puma is on my list here. So at the very least, dialogue counts. It also is, it's highly likely that there's a logo somewhere in the Isle of Manhattan.
Absolutely. You know, what was the actor's name who played Alexandra? She's so...
Missy Pyle.
Missy Pyle. She's randomly in a lot of stuff around that time. She was in Galaxy Quest.
Right.
And she's fucking funny in that. And I'm like, what a clutch performer who I don't know what she's doing anymore.
Yeah.
But she's
very
funny.
Friends with Tig Notaro, I think. Like, she was on their podcast back when she did Professor Blastoff years ago.
I also, I just mentioned her because I said when she's like, Diet Coke is the new Pepsi One. So I'm going to say Pepsi.
Okay, that I will give you that as a dialogue point because it's not on my list, but
Thank you,
is
sir.
a good call.
Not to derail, but is Missy Pyle her actual name? Or is that a stage name? Like, not to name shame, but it feels very odd.
I have a friend named Missy, and her real name's Melissa. So it's probably Melissa.
She was born Andrea K. Pyle.
Oh,
so
never
Pyle
mind.
was the thing that kind of threw me off because again, I have a funny last name too. My last name's Reddyk, you know. So I mean, I feel like I'm allowed to name shame a little bit. But yeah, Missy Pyle just sounds like I misplaced my pile of things. You know? But
why
anyway,
did she go by Missy? That's so interesting.
I don't know. I mean, anyway, back to the game. I don't mean to. This is competitive.
This is competitive.
In that same bit of dialogue, there's a guy who says, "I need to get some Zima." And it's like, dude, you don't drink. I think I should start, which is like the oldest joke in the book, right? It's like I think they use that in like UHF with Weird Al Yankovic. You know?
Fucking UHF.
That was also not on my list, but I do remember specifically that line. So that one is also good. Still no strikes.
I'm going to go another line of dialogue, but you also see it, is when Melody says, I want a Big Mac. And they're like, but you're a vegetarian. And she's like, yeah, I know, but we should get a Big Mac. So I'm going to say McDonald's, which you also see the arches
a lot. Yeah, it's all over the place. Yep, that one's on there.
Okay. I'm going to say Sony, because the Walkman that she has is Sony. Yeah.
Yes, Sony is on this list, and you're right. She does have that machine.
Speaking of S names, I'm going to say Sega. Because...
yeah, the Sega Mega Arena, and we see a Dreamcast ad at one point.
So is it actually called the Sega Mega Arena? Because it seems like they missed an opportunity to be like the Sega Arena.
The Sega Arena.
Right.
Yeah, in the movie it is. I'm sure it's like
Mega.
some other thing, but yes, the Sega Mega Arena.
Okay, yeah. Now I'm grasping at straws now. I just watched this the other night, so fuck. What?
Well, there's a good chance that anything will be in it, so you could probably just say
just guess. Yeah. I'm going to say ramen. Top ramen.
Yep.
Oh, I don't have that on my list. What's the context of that?
They eat it. They eat ramen.
Yes, they say one pack of ramen. You don't know how far one pack of ramen can go, which is also depressing to their economic status if they're sharing a pack of ramen between three people. Right. And then they freak out over another thing, which I'm going to save for my next round.
I'll leave that for Dave because I was going to steal that, but I'm going to leave that.
Okay, Josiah.
I'm going to go, and this one might be a little tricky because I don't know if it's for sure, but I think they mention Marc Jacobs as well at some point. Like maybe in the same vein as Pumas.
I believe you, but let me just verify.
Marc Jacobs sounds right. It does.
Maybe this will be the first strike.
Type.
I would think Googling Marc Jacobs, Josie and the Pussycats would immediately bring up like a line of dialogue, and it has not.
Yeah, the screenplay isn't public domain yet, I think. Wait, should that be a project? Should we just transcribe the entire Josie and the Pussycats screenplay?
Yes. I made a bot watch Josie and the Pussycats 10,000 times. And it did...
So my ruling, I think, is going to be because it wasn't an immediately available answer. I'm going to say that is a strike.
I'll take a strike. I'll take it. Fuck!
So the board is yours, Dave.
So I tell you what, to keep things fair, I will take a strike and throw what I know Josiah was going to say when he was trying to be kind before he hoisted himself upon his own petard. Is that what it's called?
My own petard.
Petard.
Yeah, it's a petard. On my own Picard, as if we're doing Star Trek still.
Live long and prosper.
Man, I'd hoist myself on any Picard. You know what I mean?
God, Patrick Stewart is so fucking hot. Even when he's like poop in the Emoji Movie, I'm just like, get at me.
I'm like, damn, dude. Just talk to me. That's all I need.
Is that you skipping around and taking a strike?
That is actually, Dave committing. Oh.
Here's what I'll say then. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm not going to completely hoist myself. I just don't have any other memories of what the fuck is actually in this movie. God, what is another... brand name that they have.
I did say one earlier,
right.
although I don't know.
That's still on my
So
list.
I want to say BMW. I believe the car that they're in at the Sega Arena, which is what I'm calling it now, is a BMW.
That I specifically know is not, but I will check really quick
Damn it.
if BMW is there, because I clocked the car before we knew what it was, which is weird because I don't know cars. But
What kind of car is it?
well,
What car
we'll
is it?
save it in case. Well, but I guess that's a clue now. Okay, so we are at one strike apiece. Although Dave went first, so in terms of who goes last or whatever. Josiah.
All right, well then I'm gonna take the kindness that Dave extended towards me. I'm gonna say Krispy Kreme because that is the donuts that they receive right after they're eating their ramen from Alexander, their manager.
I believe you, and I don't see it on my list for whatever reason. But okay, great, that counts. Oh yeah, here it is. This list is just so fucking big. Okay, back to Dave. Actually, hang on one sec. Let's just take a pause because you guys have each now gone at the same amount of times and you're tied up. And just to sort of assess the playing field still, we have
12. We've done 12. 6 apiece.
Yeah, that sounds about right. There's at least one thing that's already been mentioned on the show already. And
Yes.
there is the car that we still haven't gotten, the car brand. And then let's see, there's at least a couple things very of 2001, which is super funny to me.
Oh yeah. Sorry, that was so
then-
loud. I'm gonna have to make myself softer.
Let's see
Get the compressor
what else
on
I
that,
can
come
do
on.
to kind of get the ball rolling here.
get
There's
my
there's a
loud
number of
max
things that
filter.
one would associate with shopping, going shopping, because they have the whole shopping montage. And there's another set that's at least 3 or 4 that are very snacks.
Hey, Mike, I don't need any more
that'll
fucking
be my intervention, and we'll go back. Dave, you have control of the board.
So at this point, I'm grasping at straws because I am post-capitalist. I don't see brands. I shop thrift. Okay,
brown
I'm
paper
gonna say
packages.
Yes, brown paper packages tied up with strings.
Tied up
Those
with
are two of
string,
my
yeah,
favorite.
yeah.
We love Rogers and Hammerstein. I'm gonna say Adidas.
Adidas is correct.
Yes!
It is
Yeah.
on the list.
I'm gonna say so that Dave doesn't possibly remember later. Evian, the water
right,
that I
in the
mentioned earlier.
aquarium.
I thought
Yep,
you already
that is
got
correct.
that point. I forgot. Jeez, my brain is fried in quarantine, guys. I'm losing my
Hey,
mind.
it's all right.
Whatever.
I had to take a practice SAT for an interview the other day for a tutor, and it made me realize that
Oh my
I'm not
God.
smart anymore. There was a time when I was smart, and it's not now. It's no longer.
Yeah.
Back to Dave.
Oh man, I truly have no memory of this now. I might have to resort to bits, but I don't want to. I'm actually gonna earnestly play the game.
Yeah.
I am gonna say fudge.
I have a couple more on deck that I know for sure.
Yeah, I'm honestly grasping at straws here. I'm gonna say Nike.
Probably
Is
right.
Nike in? I feel like Nike
It's
has to be in there.
Gotta be. It's such a recognizable logo.
Yeah.
It's not on my list, but that is one that I feel is so ubiquitous that I gotta
I
look
feel like it
up.
has to be, right? Again,
Someone was probably wearing Nikes, right?
well, because when did
Well,
Jordan
with
actually leave
Adidas
the NBA?
on there.
When did Jordan leave the NBA? Was that
Now that's a good question.
yeah? Was he in the Wizards in 2001 or
When did
Might have
Michael
been.
Jordan?
I don't know.
You're
I mean,
asking the wrong people.
I
Dave.
watched The Last Dance because I thought it was a movie about the band, but then it turned out to be about Michael Jordan. It was great. You know.
It was great. He left in 1993, the first time, I think.
Really? But okay,
Retired in 1993 from the Bulls, and then in 2003 when he retired the second time.
Okay, so he would have still been playing basketball at that point. Okay.
Yes.
I'm not seeing Nike, and it may just be because we had Adidas.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll take the hit. Strike
I'm
two.
not.
Just
yeah.
like Michael
Give him a
Jordan.
strike.
Michael Jordan played for the Barons and was terrible, so it's fine. It's just the
I've
same
seen Space Jam. We got to do Space Jam. I
I was
have.
gonna say he also played for Toon Squad.
How have you
Okay,
guys
so
not done Space Jam? How have you guys not done
That's
That
a
is
good
actually a
question.
really good question.
I have this a theory, and there are several things that will. So there's generational divides, right? You've got Gen X, and then millennials and then like Gen Z, right? And so the thing that will tell you if someone's Gen X or millennial is whether or not they liked Space Jam or if they like Space Jam. Because Gen X was too old when Space Jam came out, and so they think it's stupid. But then millennials, we were all the right age to be like, hey, that's fucking funny, dude. Like Bugs Bunny up there.
Space Jam, unlike Josie and the Pussycats, was a super product placement-y movie, but it wasn't trying to like own that and make it a comedy point.
There is Bill Murray's line later, I think, or no, it's fucking Newman's line where he's like, well, go get a Big Mac and a thing of this. And then he just lists off every like sponsorship that Michael Jordan has ever had. Anyway, and the thing that will tell you if someone's a millennial or Gen Z is whether or not they know what TGIF is.
The block of programming.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. TGI Fridays.
Sabrina was on.
Yes.
You go to TGI Fridays and you watch Sabrina and you watch...
Which is also part of the Josie universe.
It's true.
Right.
It all comes back.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently
Josiah,
Alexandra...
You are in control of the board, by the way.
Oh, great. Well, hold on. Apparently,
go ahead.
Apparently Alexandra at one point in the comics had actual magical powers but only whenever she would hold their cat, Sebastian, who is not in the movie, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
So another
anyway,
Alexandra
I'm
fact.
going to say, Mike, something I'm very... Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
I'm
Dave.
sorry. I'm trying to shoehorn in things. Just
No,
like,
say it.
I never get to talk about this film. Anyway, in the 1973 to 74 series of Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, which is very Star Wars, Alexandra is actually the villain again. And when they're in outer space, she like messes with their spaceship or whatever. And then Valerie, the smart one in the group, has to redirect their spaceship to be able to get through all of this. We also need to remember, just from like a place of like history, it was freaking crazy to have a black female as a lead cartoon character. It was the first time back in 1970 we had that.
I was reading about that. So Hanna-Barbera told the creator of Josie and the Pussycats, because they want, the reason it was made is because Hanna-Barbera wanted to get some of that Archie's thunder, because the Archie's single and the show was doing really well. And so they went to Archie Comics and they were like, yeah, you can adapt Josie and the Pussycats. And so at that point, Josie and the Pussycats had already introduced Valerie as the third member of the band, and she was a black woman. And so they made her black in the show at first, but then Hanna-Barbera, the literal Hanna and Barbera, the two people, were told them, they were like, no, we need to change her to be white because we want it to be an all-white trio. And the creator of the cartoon said, no, she's going to stay black or else I walk. And they basically had like a standoff for weeks until Hanna-Barbera was like, fine, she can be black, okay.
That is wild.
And
Which is also very Star Trek.
Yes, because fucking Shatner, baby. She was the second black lead on a cartoon and the first black female lead on a cartoon.
Who would have been the first?
This is from my research. The first was the black drummer in the Hardy Boys cartoon 1 year earlier.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was the dude, and so she was the first black female. So anyways, all that to say, a very 2001 brand will be Sobe.
No. Oh my God.
One of the ones I had in my head of being very 2001.
When they cut to a Sobe thing, I was like, like my whole body like sense memory of like a gas station getting a Sobe Life Water, just like madness.
My God, I've been derailing.
Dave is shaken.
So here's the thing: I've been doing all these derails because I just don't know any of the brands, to be honest. Okay. I mean, I'm just gonna stab in the dark. This is gonna be strike 3. It's game 7. Okay, this isn't the baseball episode. I'm gonna say, Starbucks.
Yeah,
Starbucks. Yes, is correct. It was a big one.
What's wild is that Starbucks was like not new back then, but Starbucks was still relatively like,
that was when every stand-up was like, there's all these sizes and all these names, the half calf, the decaf, the foam, no foam. Can I just get a cup of coffee?
Why does everybody need espresso all of a sudden?
Yeah. Okay, Josiah.
I'm gonna go. Okay, this was another one I remember actually. So Gatorade.
I believe you.
I'm pretty sure you
don't
see
have that
someone
on my
drinking or
list.
eating a Gatorade thing at one
Oh,
point.
yeah, they have one of those Gatorade like power bars.
Yes, that's why. That's why I remember it, because I was like, "That's not a drink."
That's another like very 2000. I remember seeing that very vividly now. Yes, that is correct. Okay, so it's back to Dave.
Oh, it's back to me again. Okay, jeez.
See, now I'm running low. I don't know if I know anymore.
Yeah, I'm really grasping at straws here.
Here's I guess another clue since we're back to everyone said the same amount of answers. I think someone's even maybe already said this, but like if you just guess a big company, you're not gonna have like a non-zero chance of getting it, or you will have a non-zero chance rather.
God, I had one and then I just completely forgot it. I'm gonna say the type of phone that Alan Cummings used. I think it was a Motorola.
Motorola is correct.
Yes! Oh, gosh. Oh, man.
Which is also very funny of that time, like knowing brands of phones.
Yeah.
God. Josiah?
Okay. Now I'm grasping at straws, and I don't remember anymore. Okay. I'm gonna say some kind of J.C. Penney's. That feels 2001 to me for some reason.
It does feel
JC
like
Penney?
it, but I do not have that on my list.
No!
I cannot remember the last time I went to a like this whole podcast feels like just a nostalgia bomb for me right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, Mike, my question now is if Dave gets a third strike and then I also get a third strike, do we both lose?
Since
he went first?
Yeah, you both lose.
Okay.
No, you will each get, it'll be sudden death at that point. Well, no, again, like you each get a turn or whatever.
Okay, great.
Okay, I think I actually have one. And
yes.
Okay. Subway.
Subway.
Eat fresh.
I feel like Subway. Yes, eat fresh. Eat fresh.
I would
and
think so too.
the disgraced Jared will forever remain
disgraced.
So
Jared, who the ignominious Jared.
God. What a strange turn for America. Our like health
Honestly,
icon.
everything since then has just been downhill,
It
like
really
that was
has.
what started it. Wasn't 9/11, it was Jared.
I was just saying, like 9/11, right? Everything comes back to 9/11.
I'm not seeing Subway or JCPenney.
Fuck.
So, okay.
Okay, so that means Dave has 3 strikes.
Yeah,
I'm
so
done.
This
So-
will be
But if
pull
I
it
get
out
this
here.
wrong,
yeah.
then it's sudden death, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, I mean, you could say this is sudden death.
Can I use
You're
my
right.
like 20-sided die for sudden death or something? I just want to use this die.
Yeah, if you roll a nat 20, you win. Okay, this is a long shot, but going off of one of the earlier ones I said, is Tide one of them? Because like Bounce was one. I feel like
think
Tide might have
is.
been one.
Tide definitely is.
I don't have that on here either. Let me
Mike,
just
what is this
zoom
list
in.
of yours then?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, there's like apparently over 70, and I have like 46, so I feel like I have like the ones.
Oh, I do see.
Oh, Target and Tide Bleach in Josie and the Pussycats.
Fuck
2001.
yeah, dude.
Yeah, Tide is in the Target hotel room that Valerie is in.
Now we know that Josiah is just a capitalist cog in the machine. He buys into it.
And
I
then
am
here-
everything I stand against.
Yes.
Here is
no.
where, so
the
this-
cast of Haymarket
this-
will disown you. It's going to be great.
I know. It's going to be so sad.
So the game officially has a winner, which is to say a corporate consumerism.
shill.
Yeah. So just to do this sort of Family Feud thing where we look at all the answers as they turn over, I'll go through really quickly. Ivory Soap, Diesel, Ray-Ban,
That's a very 2000. Ray-Ban.
Apple, Ford. Ford, it's a Mustang at the end that they're in on the little turntable. TJ Maxx, Victoria's Secret, Steve Madden, The Virgin Megastore, Kodak, which is not the last camera relevant one, Hostess, Bugles. Here's a perfect one of 2001. America Online.
Oh my God. AOL,
Not even
AIM.
AOL.
Wait,
Just
pause.
America
What were
Online.
your AIM screen names? Mine was Dave Oscar. Mine was Dave Oscar 92989 because I thought Dave Oscar sounded really cool, and then I forgot that my birthday was actually 6/29/89 and just typed it in accidentally to be 92989 because I was like 12.
Mine was Trackstar 291 because I loved going to these track and field camps at the high school when I was in like elementary school in the summers. Never ran track.
Yeah.
I ran cross country eventually, but
So this is a weird regionalism, but in my like school,
barbecue,
no one had,
howdy y'all, football
Yeah,
Friday
yeah.
night.
Friday Night Lights, a
Yeah.
million. No, no one had AOL. We all had MSN Messenger instead of AIM. So, because I don't know if it was an internet provider thing, but everyone had Hotmail and not American Online. So we all had MSN Messenger, but my MSN Messenger screen name is very good. And it was, so in my mind, I was like, it has to perfectly encapsulate who I am. And I was in like 8th grade. So I was like, okay, singing, because I'm in choir and I love to sing. Lineman, because I play football and I'm a lineman. And then I have long curly hair, and it's my signifier. So with a fro, and then I was
Singing
like,
lineman with the fro.
yes. And then I was like, oh, and screen names all have to have numbers at the
Right.
end. Not knowing that was because, like, you know, if you can't get the one, you just get to put a
and
number.
of course at that time you were young, so you were a late adopter, and singing lineman with a fro was already taken.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I didn't even try that regular one. I was like, what's my favorite number? I don't know. I like 13, but I don't want to just do 13. So let's do 113. So my entire
my
screen
God.
name and my entire email, my first email, was singing lineman with the fro 113 at hotmail.com.
Good
which,
Lord.
when I took the practice PSAT, did not fit on the form. Because it was too long.
If you on this game took a guess and you didn't say, you know, fucking bugles, and you said singing lineman with a fro 113 at hotmail.com, I would have given you a half point.
You've been like, that's probably something. That's something.
That's only half the list. 7-Eleven, Frizz-Ease, Converse, Hawaiian Tropic. Here's another very 2001, BB. That like women's fashion at the
okay.
mall.
Yes.
Visa, Revlon. Josie's hotel room is very Revloned out. American Express, Butterfinger, very 2001.
Wait, real quick. So something that you just said, which made me realize, okay, so one of my nicknames is Josie. Like, people have called me that since junior
it's your
high.
Skype name.
Yeah, it is my Skype name, and it's like it's my name in a lot of things, just because people have called me that since I was like in junior high. Because Josiah, Josie, it's, you know, easy. And I had never seen Josie and the Pussycats, but anytime someone calls me Josie, I'm like, no, not right. That's weird. And in this movie, I was like, at the beginning, I was like, oh, it's Josie and the Pussycats. But then, like, everyone says something different. It's
Star
Josie
Wars.
and Josie. Exactly. And even when I watched the first episode of the cartoon, there was no consensus on if it's Josie or Josie. And maybe it's just because my name is Josiah with a soft S, and people have called me Josiah. I had college professors that called me Josiah until I graduated and never said anything.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's just because I'm very like, I hear the soft versus the hard S. But I was like, that's strange to me that no one on the first day of filming was like,
agrees.
It's Josie or Josie. We all have to say the same thing.
Yeah, that's
but also,
very
yes,
Han
very Star
Han.
Wars. Very
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Han,
Let's
come here, Han Solo.
Han, you old pirate.
You old pirate.
Butterfinger, Pringles, Barney's New York, Nikon, also very like, we're aware of cameras at that time because of the Mission Impossible 2 digital camera.
Yes.
Red Bull, Verizon, Advil, Crest, Clearasil, and Tidy Cat. And of course, many more than likely.
Of course.
This has been Advertise Me Captain.
Yeah. So let's like lean towards maybe beginning to wrap up.
Yeah, so I have like 3 in a row notes for how this is and is not Star Wars.
Hit
just
me.
to kind of
Sure.
jump us back into this way of thinking, because we've only really covered it a little bit. Of course, that recent chime in of Han and Han, Josie, that's up there. Okay, so the amount of montages I am counting against being Star Wars, because Star Wars is always very linear and like objective filming. It's very rarely, you know, we very rarely see even like a flashback or any other like what you see is what you get type of, you know. So that's a point against. But I said the music is fucking rips. And then this movie is science fiction.
Yeah.
When she puts in the disc to the like master mixer and is able to like zero out all the tracks from the CD. I was like, I don't think that's how a mixing table works.
No, that did make me very happy as someone who has to work with sound semi-frequently. I was like, man, I wish it was that easy.
I think they've already merged all the tracks at the point of it being on a CD.
If it was that easy, I would be making remixes all the time. I was like, all right, let me just turn down. It just shows that here's guitar, turn that
there would
down.
be a huge secondary market for CDs if like you could just like rip tracks one at a time like that.
I would love that. I would be the 2008 YouTube mashup creator of my dreams.
But yeah, those are the only other things that I had that were just like very definitely a Star Wars mark.
Let me go over my notes. I didn't take many notes about Star Wars. I took a lot. So some of this stuff in this movie like fell flat for me because I wasn't culturally aware enough at that time to know things. Like, I don't know what the fuck Mr. Movie Phone is.
Right.
And like, that was a funny joke to me because I was like, obviously this is a thing, but I do not know what it is.
The only reason I know it is because of the Seinfeld episode where Kramer's telephone number is like one digit off of movie phone, and so he just starts answering the phone and telling people like movies.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's what it was. You call movie phone, and then he's like, showing in your area is Die Hard 2, or, whatever.
Like, this is, so to go with something we've said before, like, Star Wars is not comedy forward, and it's also not a satire at all. And so the fact that this is like a meta commentary in a way, and also comedy forward and music forward, is points against. We've got a main trio. That's pretty Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. And an evil empire. They're a government.
Yes.
They have a hilarious lair where people work in balconies. One thing I wrote, this is not plus or minus Star Wars, but I feel like we've just missed bringing it up at all. But I didn't realize, I guess I just don't know fashion history that well, but I had no idea that bras weren't invented until after this movie.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if you ever watched Friends or any movie TV series.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
That was something that Caitlin and I talked about a lot. Like the Rosario Dawson got kind of done dirty by wardrobe in this movie because I guess the trend was braless, and the other two girls could do that because they're just such petite women, but Rosario Dawson is bustier, and so she had very granny versions of 2001 hot fashion. She always looked like she was not quite in the most flattering attire, I suppose.
You can even see it on the cover of stuff because she's got a little collar thing going down, and the other ones are sort of mid. And and it's literally because the fashion then was low cut pants,
oh my
lots
God,
of
the
midriff,
pants.
and then if you had tits, they couldn't be too big because you didn't have a bra, and so it was wearing something where you didn't need a bra, which she's bustier, and so that didn't work as well. But also, you said earlier,
on the cover, it's a very furry, froofy collar. Yeah.
So can I just say,
also
this discussion
gorgeous.
is so Star Wars right now.
It's true.
Men just objectifying women constantly.
and Carrie
Star
Fisher,
Wars.
Carrie Fisher not getting to wear a bra.
Oh,
That's true.
It's great.
Well, you know what? That's funny. This movie is very not Star Wars because it has 3 main characters who are women.
This is true.
That ain't never happened in Star Wars.
There is some racism though too, because Alan Cumming is sometimes uncomfortably a little racist towards Rosario Dawson.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand where it in the just from the stories it makes sense, but it is a little uncomfortable because it's almost you're not sure if it's because she's black or if it's because she's the one that's a little more wise harder
to the
trick.
Game. Yeah.
And so you're not exactly sure which direction it's coming from, but the fact that she is the only black character, aside from I guess Donald Faison in the very beginning, makes you be
and Carson Daly.
oh yeah, second Carson Daly.
Well, but so that was the cool thing about that's canonical though within the cartoons and the comics and stuff like that. She's always
She's
the
the
clever
smart
one.
one.
Yeah, she's the smart
Yeah.
one, right? She's the one who figures out how to pilot the ship. She's the one who figures all this shit out. So I don't know.
Which once again, pretty revolutionary for 1969.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the summer of
Nice.
'69 was just great.
I've heard that. But then I drove the Chevy to the levee, and woo, let me tell you.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
you know,
dry.
I don't really have any other notes.
Do you have any other notes, Dave, that we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, I don't know. Just one thing I thought about was like, I mean, this doesn't really matter, but I just want everybody to remember that the Star Wars Cantina Band plays a genre of music called jizz.
Jizz.
Yes. It's important that we all remember that every day.
Yeah.
And I don't know why like that needs to be said again, but I think it does.
When Disney just announced all the new fucking Star Wars things, I was like, where is the like traveling band show? I think that would be so funny. Like,
And
you
the
know,
name of it
below
is
Lower Decks,
Jizz,
Lower
all
Decks or
caps.
Lower Deckers or whatever, the CBS.
Oh, yeah, the Star Trek cartoon.
comedy
Ken
cartoon.
Burns
Like,
jizz.
why aren't they doing a comedy show? They're doing like 50 Star Wars shows. Surely the fanboys will be like, okay, fine. They're also doing a comedy one, and I just won't watch it. Like,
Yeah.
do
I
a
wish there was
jizz
one.
show. That's all I'm
Do
saying.
a jizz show.
So here's what I want. I want the Cantina Band's Jizz It. That's what I want.
Yeah. just like a 1 hour just like concert
Yeah.
of jizzing, baby.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Welcome to GI Hard. For our listeners who
Oh,
don't like
God.
the dirty stuff, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we should put some content warnings.
Oh, absolutely. So anyway, should we rate this movie
Yeah.
now that we've been recording for like
So,
almost 2 hours?
Just because I gotta get it in there first, my unit of measure is gonna be long days.
Okay, great. I think my unit of measure is gonna be. I don't know. You know what? Mine's gonna be long tails. Long tails.
I'm sort of confused about this measurement system, but I'm gonna mirror Mike and say mine is actually gonna be "Long Day" by Matchbox 20, which came out the same year as the Counting Crows song "Angels of Silences," which inspired "Spin Around." So, "Long Day" by Matchbox 20.
So we all picked along, and that's good.
Great.
I like I said, there's enough that makes this not Star Wars, of course, but it has a trio heroes. They are the underdogs. They fight the big bad guy. It's basically science fiction, and anti-corporation, and because of all of those pluses, I'm giving it 5 long days,
Wow.
which might be high.
It might take Mike. I'm not glad you. That feels high to me.
Yeah, because I think you gave Rogue One 5.
Yeah. So, but that is why I gave it long tails, because they've got long tails and ears for hats. And
That's
there's
right.
There's 3 women in the band, so I'm gonna give it 3 long tails.
That feels good.
Dave, what do you think?
I am not going to compare this to Star Wars. I am going to go back to Zombie Island. Comparing it to Zombie Island. I give it, I think, well, let me count. I totally lost count. They worship cats in Zombie Island. They have a late 90s / early aughts alternative rock soundtrack that slaps.
Cause it's terror time again.
Exactly, right? Also, it based off a cartoon.
Sure.
And
A
then
Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
A Hanna-Barbera cartoon. So then there was one. Another thing. It is best consumed if you are under the age of 13, which like Star Wars totally is. And then I had one other thing. Shit, what was the last thing I had? Obviously, again, the music totally slaps, which I think we already said. I don't know. I'd give it 5 Matchbook 20 long days. Yeah.
For how Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island it is?
Oh yeah, no,
Or how
I'm
Star
not.
Wars is
I
it?
didn't come on here to talk about Star Wars. I came on here exclusively for Scooby-Doo Zombie Island because it is a wild.
It's good to see.
My chair just fell down
It's good to see scale.
because I laughed too hard.
Yes, house good.
All right, so there you have it, folks. It is
We're
a
gonna have
5
to
out of
figure out
10.
what the conversion rate is.
I know. I was like, what did we give Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island? So there you have it, folks. It is a 5 out of 10 of how Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island it is, and it's a 4, average of
Yeah,
4
yeah, I'd
for
say.
how Star Wars it is.
Right.
Which is
Boy,
this
oh boy.
our
It definitely
least
is.
scientific episode yet? Yes. Is it our longest episode yet? Maybe also yes.
Yeah.
But we should wrap
Even
up.
more
So
than High School Musical, where we covered 3 movies, or Avatar: The Last Airbender, where we covered like 3 years of a television show.
yes. We should wrap up. So you can find our stuff, me and Mike's stuff, in the description. Dave, is there anywhere you'd like people to go to look at your things?
Yeah, just search Reddyk and Krupp, REDDYK, Krupp, KRUPP, PP. Anyway, yeah, no. So we got some great stuff. Mike sings some stuff about his butthole, and we also have a show about a nun. We also have a show about the Church of Modern Love. Which actually, one last thing I'm going to shoehorn in here. There's a song in Church of Modern Love called Savior, where it has a hook that goes, "Baby, you're a light, gonna shine so bright," which is actually inspired by a track off of Infinity on High, produced by Babyface, which also was the producer of Josie and the Pussycats, which is I'm Like a Lawyer in the Way I'm Always Trying to Get You Off, which is me and you sitting in a honeymoon if I woke up next to you. So if you listen to the song Savior, you'll see.
And that's Fall Out Boy?
That's Fall Out Boy from Infinity on High, yes. So long
It's
story
all
short,
connected.
It's all connected.
So everything. So what we need to do is we need to start a new podcast called How Josie and the Pussycats Is It, where we take every album that's come out since 2001 and figure out both literally how it's connected production-wise to Josie and the Pussycats, and then also how it's inspired by Josie and the Pussycats.
I do see that having a home on our Rat Race sister network.
Yeah.
Movies from between like 1999 and 2004, like
That are all
that's kind
Rat
of all I
Race.
ever want to see again.
Same, actually. Okay, so, well, wow. Listeners, good job. This might be our closest to 2-hour episode yet, and but it's about time for Tubby
Hopefully
Bye-Bye.
this becomes a tradition.
Honestly, yes. But it's about time for Tubby Bye-Bye. So, Dave, do you want to say we love you and may the 4th be with you with us?
I will say Sharknado, may the 4th be with you.
Great. Okay, so, like we always say, we love you. And
may the Sharknado 4, may the 4th
be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
We love you.
May the 4th be with you.
And may the 4th be with you.
We're like,
I was waiting for Dave to say Sharknado.
Oh, sorry. Try it again. Try it again.
Ready?
We'll get it in post. Sorry.
Like we always say, we love you.
And Sharknado 4.
Oh,
shit. Wait, one more time. Because, like, the thing is, it's like, and, like, if you say, like, we love you, and, then I can fill it in with the Sharknado 4. Okay.
Great. Yeah.
Gotcha.
oh, okay, yeah.
And like we always say, we love you. And
like Sharknado. Sorry, one more time. Take it from the top.
Didn't she run I.O.?
Sharknado, yeah. Rip.
Yes. Oh, gosh, those dogs.
Okay, anyway, ready? And like we always say,
this is all going in the after the
yeah,
show.
I was gonna say I'm gonna cut out the one where we get it right and put that there, and then all of this will go at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Good.